everyone, Richard Carlton here. Welcome to another awesome day. I want to welcome you to Monday. It's the first Monday after the close of FileMaker's, or Claris's, I should say, developer conference, which used to be called DevCon. We still call it that because then people know what we're talking about. They call it Engage now as the official title of their developer conference. Today is an interesting broadcast. There's a lot of awesome information. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of fmtraining.tv, where we create great FileMaker training, helping you make great FileMaker custom applications, because the world needs you to build great applications. Every one of you needs to build great applications. I'm not saying you're not making great apps. I'm just saying that you need to make great apps. If you are making great apps already, then just shut it down and go do something else, right? If you're already making perfectly awesome apps, I think what you find is that no matter how great your apps are, you can always find ways of making them better, especially with the movement of technology as things move forward. Today is a good one. Really, it's kind of, this whole week is kind of a beginner week. And so TK and some of you here, maybe not the most exciting for you. Some of you, I think, have kind of learned things around the periphery. So if you throw questions in as we go, then that will help me. Now, the reason I'm doing this content right now is that the topic for today is the learning progression of the FileMaker for the FileMaker user. It's the opening section of the updated book. I'm in the middle of writing this, trying to find the best way of throwing my words together. Part of it I write, part of it I dictate. I have one of my staff who takes the dictations and kind of cobbles down my sentences together. That's why the book frequently sounds like I was talking, because I was talking when I wrote part of it. Along the way, we have questions. So let's just cover the boilerplate stuff up front. So you're looking at, so this is, I guess, Bunny compliant training today. So for those of you wondering about that, this is Bunny grade training. So I'm not sure the Bunny is here. Hopefully the Bunny is here, because it will be good training. Basic stuff, but also little bits of advanced bits of nuggets, things that you would learn eventually yourself. Everything that we talk about here, you will eventually learn in years in the future. If I can help you learn it today and cut some years or months off your training time, that's my goal. It's why I am really here. Once again, reminder for those of you who are not aware, there's a bunch of you here are FileMaker coaching customers. We greatly appreciate that. One-on-one coaching is an awesome way to go. Some of you don't want to bother with that. You just want someone to magically build it for you, in which case we do development as well. But the one-on-one coaching is really quite good. So I'm just going to simply reference this. If you need one-on-one help, you want someone to guide you and you work together with them, one-on-one coaching is the way to go. If you just want the FileMaker video training, make sure you have our current bundle. And once again, this is for all the people out there. A lot of this material will be watched in recorded fashion. While you folks are here live today, you get the benefit of asking me questions. Most people will catch this video in a rerun, per se, if that's even a real word anymore. So a rerun on YouTube or Vimeo. So feel free to check out our FileMaker training packages. These are fantastic as well. So let's dive into the topic today of this learning progression. And so what I want to do is I want to come back to this graphic right here. And I'm going to spend a couple minutes here with this. So this is the world of the FileMaker platform. And basically, you can see you have these senior developers here. So the progression is just like left to right across the screen here. And the short version of this is that a lot of you start off over here, and I'm happy to answer questions. And it's some of the most fun time of being in the FileMaker platform, because you're learning totally new things that you never thought you could do before. You're learning, you're working on something, and maybe it's frustrating, it doesn't work the way you want, and then you figure it out, and it's like this aha moment. Those, as you become more senior and you get older, you have less of those, right? Because you've kind of mastered it, and then only when brand new technology comes in, like some JavaScript integration with FileMaker 19, you have this aha moment, and you get that really excited, giddy feeling where when you're at this green level down here, you're just brand new, where you're in here, every day you could open up FileMaker and learn something totally new you didn't know before. So it's an exciting time. I really kind of enjoy remembering about that. I enjoy watching you folks go through it here. And when you have questions, definitely let me know about that. Because that's how it make it better for you, help you through this. Now, you don't want to skip. I mean, a lot of this you have to learn, and the learning process is where you get your cuts and your scrapes and your bruises. I think it was Michael Jordan who said he learned far more from failure than he ever learned from success. Failure is the ultimate teacher. And of course, the idea is to not die in the process. And I mean that kind of both, virtually and in reality too, because some of us have higher risk jobs and occupations. You want to learn the job without dying on the job. Very important concept. And so, and the reason I ask is there's a wide variety of people here that do all sorts of wide variety of things, and so it's important that you learn the job and you have the cuts and the scars to prove it. Now, I can help you along the way. I can help some of you learn from this. Some people out there, as you're learning, I mean, I don't think it's the folks here per se, but just you're going to run into people out there where you try to help them, you try to teach them, and it's like their fingers in the air going, nah, 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 I didn't hear what you said. And it's like when you have a kid, and maybe it was like this way with Amy and Jake, but I don't know what kind of kid Jake was, but if you like, oh, there's the hot stove in the kitchen, Jake, don't touch it. Now, is Jake the kind of kid that would like listen to you and go, oh yeah, well, it's hot, don't want to touch it, let's move it on, I'm just going to bank that bit of knowledge? Or is he the kind of kid that is going to burn their finger, right? And so burning it once, I think that's kind of a normal thing. A lot of people tend to do that. The people that I worry about are the ones that like burn it twice and 3 times because they didn't learn the lesson the first time, right? And so I'm not picking on Jake in any way. I think it's kind of funny, but the question is, the faster you can turn the corner on learning some of these negative things, the faster you can become a better developer. So try to learn from other people's mistakes. So moving along, so what we're going to do is I'm going to answer questions about this, but Ken brought up a really good question. It's super relevant to this group of people, and that is, as you start to build a FileMaker application, what are you doing? How do you build it? What is your development strategy? What is your development environment? And you're going to meet, once again, this is one of those conversations where if you know enough to argue with me about it, then you probably shouldn't be in this conversation. It's like Anchor Buoy, right? I'll tell you what Anchor Buoy is, and I could even tell you why very senior people should be using it. In the development community, developers need a level of creativity, so sometimes they will use Anchor Buoy as a way to design the relational diagram. It actually is the fastest method. This is proven by other people, not by me. And Claris came back out and re-recommended Anchor Buoy again to everyone. In this topic, what we're going to talk about, how you do development. So you're going to build a FileMaker file. Let's say that we are building, this is NJ's demo file, right? And so NJ is working on this. He's from Australia. It's really late there or early there, whatever it is. And he's working on this, and he's a great guy. And so this is your FileMaker file, and you recognize it as such. So if I'm building a FileMaker file, I open the file locally on here. So what are one of the rules that we have? If the file crashes, you have to restore from a backup. It's one of those rules, right? It's really even, I don't know anyone who really says don't use that rule. And so if we were, unfortunately, and I'm going to go ahead and do that right here, say I inadvertently crash FileMaker. FileMaker crashes, okay? And the file doesn't close properly. You could open this file and use it again, which is what I just did. I opened it up and used it again, but it might be damaged. Now this file is a test throwaway file. It's not the master file. You wouldn't want to do this to your master file, but the point is that you open it back up, you keep using it. Is that good? No, please don't do that. Eventually, if you do this enough times, you will open the file or attempt to open it and will say this file is damaged, can never be opened again. Once again, we've had a conversation about customers who like to argue with me about that. They crash their FileMaker server. They use the crash file. They say, oh, I'm going to run a recover on the crash file. Running a recover on the crash file doesn't fix any major corruption issues. Running a recovery on a file, one will alert you to any problems it sees. And then as FileMaker is building the file, you don't see this, but internally in the FMP12 file, there's all sorts of organization that goes in there. Its own database of managing its own stuff. Every little bit is put in a little here and little there, and then this big file. And so sometimes it gets a little bit erratic and disorganized in there. The recover command helps reorganize that file. When you run a clone command, so we're talking up under here, under file, you do save as, wherever that's at, save as right here. We're talking about running a clone of the file. This right here rips all the data out of it and does a really serious reset on the file. Rips all the user data out of it. There's no records left in it at all. It resets a lot of internal management. This is a very therapeutic thing to do to a file, assuming you don't need the data that's in it. And so that's that command. The recover command is the one that people like to use. right here. It's like, oh, I'm just going to run this recover command and it will make my file good again. No, it won't. It will take care of some low-hanging, simple edits and things that need to be fixed, but it's not going to remove the corruption that has been induced into a file because you crashed the file and you kept using it, right? The idea is to learn how to build the FileMaker application safely. I recommend that you put your database. If we were working on this file, this NJ file right here, I would put this up on a server. Whenever we're working on a new copy of Starting Point, Starting Point represents a substantial investment, 7-figure investment in my case, over the last 10 years, over $1 million I've put into it. As a result of that, it lives on a FileMaker server. If that server twitches, burps, blows up, does anything, we restore from backups. And that server also makes copies out on the internet. It makes offsite backups. It does all sorts of stuff. So we only do the edits on when the file's being hosted. Because if you crash your client, right, the file's being hosted on the server, but you crash a client. Clients crash all the time. Clients could be working and they drive out a cell, you're on your phone or you're on your iPad or your Android device or whatever you're on over here, right? And you go out of range of the network. The file didn't close down correctly. That's a crash. As far as FileMaker server is concerned, it's a crash. The client just disappeared. It didn't give you permission. It just did it. And so FileMaker's made the FileMaker server very robust in the fact that it is protects the file at all costs. So that's very important. So when you disconnect, it just like removes you and it does it and it protects that file. Very, very, very important concept. And so the idea with new FileMaker developers is that if FileMaker tells you something, the application tells it to you, believe it. So if the server says it's backing up the file, if you're a brand new FileMaker developer, you don't have the wherewithal, the skills to challenge that. Just for the time being, believe it. Vast majority of the time it works just fine. There are weird cases where it'll say it's backing up and it doesn't, but that's why you do server checks. Once again, way beyond the grade of this. We got a lot of people here who probably shouldn't be in this conversation because they're way too senior to be having a conversation for brand new people. How do you know if the file is crashed, is corrupted? Okay, Jake, really great question. You don't know. That's the problem. You don't know. You don't know. So what do? You assume it's corrupted. Okay? You have to make that assumption. And so you take it and you throw it away. Now, here's the deal. Here's NJ's file over here, right? See this file right here? I could do a recovery on this file. And it could give me a pretty good idea if it's damaged or not. If I go to recover and I go to the, it's called NJ, it's called input. It's right here. I say select. I'm going to do recovery. So the recovery is going to give me some telemetry. It's like when they shoot the rocket or space shuttle or whatever they shoot, one of the Elon Musk rockets, SpaceX. There's all this telemetry, so it's beaming back data as to what it's seeing. So that's what we're going to be looking at here is the telemetry. And so we run a recover command. I'm going to go save. So it's actually going to, this is the original file. It leaves that one alone. Then it creates this new file over here. And what it does is it gives us kind of this summary right here of what it found. So this is a summary of the telemetry. It says problems were detected while recovering file. Please review the recovered file to see if their problems were found and their severity. Okay, I love this right here. It doesn't say whether things are severe or not. The only way you would know this is by having years and years of experience or talking to someone who who saw this. But the recovered file should not be used going forward. So that right there is FileMaker's legal team, attorneys telling you never to use it going forward. So of course, they don't want to say ever use the recovered file. And the idea behind this is that it's possible. One of the things that the recovery command can do is if it finds something that's bad, that's corrupted, it can like remove it. I've seen that happen. You come back in and a script is gone or a field definition is gone. It's not very often. It doesn't happen very often. Most of the time, it just simply tells you you have a problem and then alerts you to it and then walks off. We ran this, it created this log file right here. This is the telemetry of what came back. And being able to read this, I don't know how many of the senior engineers, people that are seniors here, can really read this and know how to read it. That would be an interesting conversation to have. I can tell you that half my senior engineers or most of my senior engineers can't read this. They always, whenever they have a problem, they pull this log and they come to me and they have me decrypt it for them. But what you'll do is a lot of this information here is it just kind of reorganizing data. It's reorganizing this, reorganizing that. There's nothing seriously wrong with it. It's like, oh, I'm going to rechange this ID, I'm going to adjust this, recovering a font. There's nothing probably wrong with the font, doing this, doing that, rebuilding this. You'll get into here where you'll actually get like a legit problem, right? Like here it says, oh, you know, this index wasn't quite right, so I'm going to adjust the index. Down here, it's probably hard to see this stuff. But this is the kind of like the telemetry, right? And so if you have so it's the line entry starts here. It's actually, it really needs, and I'm not sure why it's wrapping here. Maybe my word is wrapping. I need to put in another app that doesn't wrap. But basically is that this right here is recovering this object right here. Nothing really wrong with this, but you will run into ones where it says something is damaged or something like that. When you see an item that says something is damaged, like there's a damage alert item, it's referring to the line right above it. It's very, very important, right? So here's what happens. So we have this file here. I'm going to close this. I don't see anything heinous in here, but the standard legal. There was enough little things that triggered in here that it triggered the legal boilerplate. Okay, so it found a couple minor things. Therefore, the legal, it's like your ambulance chasing attorney warning comes up here. The recovered file should not be used going forward. Okay, so let's just shelve the attorney conversation for a second. Now, some therapeutic things were done here. But was the file damaged? Was it really damaged? And can we use it? Well, the other way to look at this, and once again, I'm not saying use these files. I'm just saying this is how you would go about it. If we just crashed and we got this right here, I would consider this inconclusive data. I would say probably not damaged, but if it was running on the FileMaker server, we wouldn't be having this conversation at all, right? You need to run on the FileMaker server. It does a million things for you. The next thing you can do is you can continue the progression on this. What you can do is you can run the recover again. So when you run the recover command, you don't do it on a file that's open. The file has to be closed. So this was the original file. It created this file. Now we're going to recover the recover file just because you want some more. So it's down here. It's kind of hard to see, but I'm selecting the recovered file here. So we're going to recover the recover file, and we're going to see what that gets us, right? Very interesting. We're going to go select. I'm going to use the same advanced option. Basically, we turn on all the more gnarly scans and inspections, and we're going to run it again. Now it creates a double one. Now here is where it gets interesting. We ran one recover. It did some cleanup. We run it again. It finds no problems. Okay. It found no problems. This file now, of course, now it says. It says, oh yeah, you could use this just fine. So the legal interpretation from here to here was don't use it, but at this point it doesn't see anything really wrong. Probably nothing serious was messed up with this file, okay? But in order to go down this road, we had to do these recoveries. Most of the time will take longer. You could avoid all this conversation by putting it on a FileMaker Cloud or FileMaker server, period. And so when you crash, you don't have to worry about this. Plus, those servers make backups for you automatically. When you're running the file locally, there are no automatic backups. So now we've got to this point where we think probably this file is okay. I would say it's a simple file for NJ that demonstrates something. We wouldn't worry about it. If it was starting point, I would have to think about it very carefully. We did do this one time. This is years ago. I don't even know if it's a current file anymore, but we ran this process, and it identified. We had a guy who was helping us. He was in Las Vegas, and he defined like 3 fields. When he defined the fields, I don't know what he did. The fields were defined corrupted, fundamentally corrupted. I don't know what he did, why he did it, but the file was fine before he added these 4 fields in preferences, and so then I ran this process and it found, hey, these fields have a problem, and so I literally went into the system, removed those objects, deleted the fields, reran the recover, and the recover said it was fine. So it is possible to remediate the issue, to take time to do the issue. How much is your time worth, right? To go through and remediate it or do the recovery of the recover. So put it on the server, because then this conversation goes away. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. So there is a way forward. It's just, it's going to burn time, and why bother? This is a really useful skill set when something really unsavory happens on your FileMaker server, and I see it once a year with 500 customers and 30 engineers. Once a year, we'll have a server somewhere do something stupid and eat a file, and it shouldn't. And then we have to do this process because there is no backup. We have to do this process. I have some customers who just refuse to restore from the back. If you always restore from the backup, you never have to worry about this. I have a customer who does this. Well, they're not our customer. They like to call us and pretend where we work for them, but we don't work for them because we tell them that if you keep doing this, one day, crash it, use it, crash it, recover it, crash it, recover it. One day it will just not open. There's only, I mean, if you take a hammer and beat on anything long enough, eventually it's just not going to work anymore. So what would cause a FileMaker file to crash? Nothing I know. Oh, with the current version, possibly crash if you wrote a recurring custom function or a recursion custom function that did a whole bunch, or you ran out of memory. Okay, you could cause it to crash. But if you crash on FileMaker Pro, why do you care, right? I don't know that people are getting this, right? So I'm going to open up the master of starting point. Here's my $1 million application. This is literally worth $1 million. Here we go. I don't have $1 million here. This is 50,000. Imagine a big stack of this, okay? Ready? Here's my $1 million application. I just force quit it, and if it was running locally, I just damaged and destroyed $1 million. Okay? I'm not allowed to say the F word, but I would say it about 500 times. Oh, but wait a minute, we're using FileMaker server, and it handles that disconnection okay. It protects the FileMaker file, and it backs it up all the time. I've had squirrels chew through power cables before, right? On a server. The server goes down, but it runs backups I make backups every 15 to 20 minutes, right? So, yeah, I had a squirrel. The squirrel exploded. It was a dead squirrel, super crispy squirrel, right? But the server's still down. I've had 5 or 6 cases where the janitors come in the middle of the night and they're going to vacuum, and they plug the power to the vacuum into the back of the closest outlet, which happens to be the back of a APC battery backup. And a whole row of servers goes down. That is the whole point of what we're talking about. If this file is running on the server and the server's backing up all the time, one, the server is going to generally protect the file and it won't crash. And in the event it crashes, you have good backups to restore from. You must do this. You must do this. Okay? And if you can give me reasons why not to do it, like we want to do version control with our advanced team of FileMaker developers, right? So you're some company, you come to me and you say that stuff. Fine, then you can have that conversation and you're prepared to remediate the $1 million of damage if it occurs because you've already thought that through. We're talking about beginners today, right? Basic people. So Ken was asking about what does my development process look like? I find a FileMaker file that I want to start with. Say this is the FileMaker file. I probably screw around with it a little bit. I probably start building on it a little bit. And then I go, one of two things happens. I go, I should have this on a server. And then what I do is I come up here and I go share it and I select a FileMaker. I upload it to the FileMaker server. This doesn't have a password. You got to set a password. I either do that, I forget, and then I do it. Or I go, oh, I want my team to collaborate and work on it simultaneously. More than one engineer or developer can work on a FileMaker file simultaneously. They just can't work on the same layout simultaneously, and they can't work on the same exact scripts simultaneously. Make sense? Many people can look at a layout. Many people can look at script workspace at a script. One person can be editing that script, making code changes, or on layout mode, dragging objects around. You can go to layout mode and look at it, but if you click on it to edit it, it makes sure that you're the only one. It's basically like a record lock, except it's a layout lock or a script lock. If you were giving brand new people suggestions on the progression forward of their learning, right? I mean, I think mostly we just want them to burn their fingers and lose their data. So putting it on a FileMaker server is the way to go. It just has to be that way. Some people say, oh, I want to do peer-to-peer sharing where my FileMaker client will where my FileMaker client will share the information amongst other users, but that's not protected, and there's no automatic backups, and it's real easy to crash in that scenario. Jake says, probably another day, but would you have to worry about the corruption when running a local file on iOS and using it? No, that's a good question, Jake. I'll pick that one off from you. So here's the thing. So we talked the other day about synchronization with servers, okay? If you're running, one of the things that came up in that training, and maybe you didn't see it, didn't realize it, went too fast for you. It was like day 4 or 5, day 4, 3 or 4. We did a demonstration of using the Mirrorsync, not just for server replication, but for creating offline access for like an iPad. This isn't my iPad, but pretend this is an iPad. This is an Android device. So this device right here, say you want to sync it offline. Well, the database file on here is not the master database file. So what if you crash the file and it won't open? Well, part of the process with Mirrorsync is that it beams you a complete FileMaker file, and then it updates it. So if you corrupt the file that's on here, throw it away. Now, if you synchronize it, you're offline, you're out in the desert. This literally happened out around the desert around in Israel. We can't imagine why certain radio frequencies wouldn't work around out in the desert in Israel, because mostly it was around outside of one of their bases there. So they were jamming all the RF and things like that. And I know this because there were people there going through this. And so they had an iPad. They were out there in the desert doing stuff. And so say they input 5 records of data. And then they do really stupid things and they crash the FileMaker file on the iPad. Yes, those 5 records of data may be gone. So it's better to synchronize when you can, so that data that you've collected or the change of data gets back to the server where it's backed up automatically. Does that make sense? How do you determine the best way to get your database out to a customer based on cost, no user number, and connections? Okay, that's a licensing conversation. Licensing comes up here all the time. I guess we could talk about this a little bit. I think it's relevant. Licensing is a tricky conversation. It's a really important conversation, because one of the things that came up in this whole enchilada, and it's the source video for today, it's called Reselling Your Own Custom Applications if you want to go into the vertical market business. The idea is that you have you're going to build an application and you're going to make $1 million on it, or $1 billion, or whatever you're going to make on it. Any more, $1 million, I guess, is not that much, but $1 billion on it, right? Or $100 million or something. You have to have a way of getting that market built, getting that app built, getting out in front of customers, getting them to pay you money at the end of the day. Having an idea is the smallest part of the whole thing. Executing the idea is 90% of it. I think executing the idea, well, 50% is executing, and 30 or 40% is getting in front of people and getting them to give you their money, right? So, hey, there's Ken's application, so he's going to charge a couple $100 for it. So here's, $200 right here. So we peel off a couple bills, and we give these to Ken for his software because it's a great idea. You've got to get to that point. You have to get to that point. You have to plan for that point. This video talks about that. If you're interested in going down this road, it's not the end-all be-all, but there's some material in here that Claris won't tell you, although they are acutely aware of it themselves. There's a conversation there about minimum viable product versus trying to always pack every last feature into a product. And Claris, ever since FileMaker 15, has definitely been on this path of trying to get, the first thing they try to do is get a minimum viable product out the door. And I remember them talking about it, and the product manager was a really big part of that for the first Cloud 1.0 product. And partly the Cloud 2.0 product was Anand Vigala, right? Really good guy. He was a real big one on making sure that the Cloud 1.0 product out there, the very first one, minimum viable, just the minimum we need to be reasonably halfway successful. Not the first one to bake $1 billion, just the first one to get, because once you get out the door, you start getting feedback. It's a very important concept. So we discuss it at great length. Andre says, for new developers, getting in the habit of having a scratch file for storing snippets, custom functions, and schema. You don't have to reinvent the wheel all over again. Yeah, that's a good one too. I did that when I was coding every day because that was my day job. Now I train every day, and so sometimes I lose track of that, except that I still do that. I have my own little snippets of stuff, right? So like there's a million different ways to do it. If Christian Olsen was here, we'd bring him in here, have him talk about it. I don't even know if he's around at all. He's been actually pretty busy building stuff for customers. Basically, this is my repository, but the company gets to help me with it. Every time there's an interesting little nugget of crap that pops in here, right? And I don't mean crap in a bottom way, but it's the stuff that if you leave on your desk desk becomes this junky disaster. Some of you have really junky houses, apartments, whatever. I can't help you with that. But some of us realize that you have to put that stuff away and clean it up. And most people throw things. Then they have this one drawer with all the crap they don't know what to do with, but they know that someday it might be important. That's your junk drawer. So this is what this is right here. So remember when NJ was doing the analysis from Australia, right? And what I did is I kept his data and I saved it. In fact, I should have put the NJ via Discord, right? So this is a note to myself of where the data came from, but I've got a screenshot here. I can pop the screenshot, take a look at it. Allows me to take a look at all the little bits of snuggly data that I might need to know. Now, this is my tool repository is what Andre's talking about, having a way of doing that. I will ask Christian to come up with a way of what he does and recommendation on that. Let's talk about licensing, best deployment options for your customers and licensing. At the end of the day, you need to make sure that you have legal licenses for FileMaker. There are ways of weaseling around and getting around that kind of stuff. The reality is FileMaker is biting down on those people. We've seen them go after companies even in the last 3 or 4 months who didn't pay they had the software on an annual license, they didn't pay for it. Claris knows you're using it, right? That stuff beams home. It talks to FileMaker. Whenever you're running FileMaker, it's beaming. It's not telling them what you're doing. It just tells them that they know that it's running, right? And if you're running FileMaker, you're not paying for it, they have the option of coming and dropping a bomb on your head, right? I mean, not a real bomb, but whatever. Cease and desist or God knows whatever else, especially if you're real belligerent about it. But yeah, whenever you do these license keys and you put the license certificate stuff in there, yeah, all this stuff beams home, right? And so FileMaker Pro, like when I fire this up over here, FileMaker knows. I don't know if it beams it back once a week or probably once a week or something. I guess it could be every day, but I doubt it. But it's an old ping that they know we're using their licensed product. That's all part of the deal. And so you need a legal way of making sure your customers get it. There is the FileMaker developer subscription. Ken or someone kicked that around a little bit ago. But the short version of this is a developer subscription. Is the older subscription they've had. This has been around for a lot of years. For $100, you get a copy of Pro and you get a copy of Server that you need to install somewhere. It's Mac or Windows Server. This developer subscription really should, in an ideal world, have Cloud 2 wrapped into it. It should have Connect wrapped into it. It should be like $199 or $99 or something, and you get all this stuff for like a year. Okay, it really should, and I think that's a good spot. So this helps out the developer. Now, it really has two choices. They can buy if they don't have any FileMaker at all. They can, and you have, if it's only like 1 or 2 people, then you've got this real problem of them running a local file without a server. And really, FileMaker's entry-level position, if you look at the product line, they don't really sell anything for less than $900. They sell a single copy of FileMaker Pro, the full, and remember, Claris loves annual. So then why is there one product on their website, the perpetual one, for $540? It makes no sense. So basically their entry-level spot for any normal people is about $900. It's $1,145, so it's $900 if you just buy the software. If you buy the minimum cloud installation for 5 people, like just the minimum bare bones Cloud 2 installation, which is what I did over here, right? You saw me log into it. It's $1,145 US, okay, per year. And so that's really your entry-level position in the FileMaker on a per-year basis. It's going to be $900 for the software. So I'm not anti-Claris at all. It's just that they have this kind of minimum barrier to getting into the platform. And if you think about it from a consultant's perspective, if you're going to work on a product for someone and you want to make any money, if the customer can't afford $1,000, how are they going to afford you as a developer? Maybe not. If you're making a vertical market application, that's where you want to get in and do what we call the SBA program. The SBA program allows you to take your solution. This came up. I have someone who was asking me about licensing questions on vertical market apps. So let's pivot briefly to licensing on vertical market. So you're building an application, you want to sell it. FileMaker, so either people can just buy your app and then they can go spend $1,145 for a 5-pack, and it goes up from there. Or you can bundle the FileMaker software and your solution together as one package, as one thing. Does that make sense? And that's called the SBA program, Solution Bundle Agreement Program. And if you go down this road, then you only sell your solution with the FileMaker bundle. But they give you FileMaker. They said it at DevCon last week, so I'm just going to repeat it. They gave you half off. So if you were going to do a 5-pack for a customer, and so Jamie builds a solution for 5 people. A customer's going to buy their solution. So Jamie figures out, I want $500 a year on this, and then Jamie's going to have to pay FileMaker $1,145 a year, but they half off on that. So he's going to pay, or she is going to pay them. This is a big group of people here. Pay the Claris about 50% of that suggested list price. That makes sense. But you can't itemize it. You can't say, well, my app is 500 and this other FileMaker. No. You have to wrap it all together, and you cannot itemize. Okay. So you either itemize it and you send FileMaker people to go to buy FileMaker on their own, or you bundle it, but then you only bundle it. You don't itemize it, right? You'll notice I do certain things with our bundles the way we do, with certain ways we do them, because we cannot itemize. I can't say, hey, this bundles this and this bundles that, and if you want to get rid of FileMaker, you can save this. You can't have that conversation with SBA. It's part of the legal agreement, okay? So you're going to take your software, bundle it, and then give them a complete package, which makes the customer's life much easier, okay? Makes sense? So that's the SBA program. Now, can you just whip out, so people go, hey, I could say half on FileMaker. Some of you, all you heard just now was you can save half on FileMaker. You didn't hear anything else I said. And I get that, right? Hey, save half, right? The thing is, in order to do the SBA program, you have to take your application, submit to Claris for evaluation. Claris is going to look at your website about the product and your marketing materials about the product and make sure it's a real product. And then they're going to mandate that you buy 50 or 100 copies of it up front. So when you first get in the program, you can't just buy a 5-pack. You're going to buy 50 people worth or whatever, 100 people worth, whatever that looks like, okay? And so there's a minimum kind of entry there, but if you're seriously going to sell to people, then buying a 50 copies or whatever is not going to be a problem for you, right? Makes sense? So that's what this is all about in terms of the SBA program. They talked about it last week. There was a video on it last week. We also talk about it, I think, a little bit in the video I just posted. But either you can sell your solution separately, or you can bundle it. And if you bundle it, you can't itemize it out without FileMaker. It only comes with FileMaker, right? And if you sell your solution annually, and you buy Claris's annually, then it's perfect. The customer buys your product and the FileMaker product, and they runs for 1 year, or you can buy a multi-year, 1-2 years, and they both time out at the same time. And then you help manage that with your customer. You say, hey, I've got the GWiz Jamie Model 5000 software that's going to help you. Like there's software in Sacramento, the folks at VetFM sell the software. VetFM in Sacramento, and they do this all the time. This is their thing. They buy the SBA software, they bundle it, and they load it up. So Ken asked a question. Hey, so you put the file up on FileMaker server for the customer, and it's like, he says, somewhat live. So that means it's live, but kind of not really. In the business, we call that a soft launch. You're launching the software, but you don't really tell anyone, so it's there. It's not a hard launch, but a soft launch. And you want to add some features, the server version, a dev version. This gets back to if I'm going to make a vertical market, I'm going to have it rolled out with a bunch of customers, I'm probably going to use 360works' deploy product. We didn't look at that the other day, but you can see from talking to Jesse Barnum that there's a lot of cool stuff that guy does. The deploy product allows you to have like 5 customer servers, or 20 or 100 customer servers, or whatever it is. And what you do is you make the update on your local copy or whatever you do, and then you press a button, whatever that looks like. There's a button you press to activate the deploy software. It's called Mirrorsync. It's called the Mirrorsync. It's actually 360 Works, not Mirrorsync. 360 Works. Yeah, the products is called Deploy 2. Deploy 1 was a good try. Deploy 2 uses the data migration tool from FileMaker 17. And this actually, so it takes your local FileMaker file, it puts it up on the customer server, it imports all the data, and then makes it live. And so that's how you solve that problem. If you're working on, so that's like if you have a vertical market solution and everyone has, they have different data, but they all have basically the same copy of the master file. So if you have a FileMaker file and you cloned it with no data in it, and everyone's using Ken Tooley's Balloon Pro 1.0. So we'll call it Balloon Pro 1.0 for Ken. And Ken comes out with Balloon Pro 1.1, and everyone uses the same software. Then Ken would do 1.1 on his computer, then he hit the deploy software. This deploy software would literally go up in the cloud and push it to all the customer servers and roll it out for them. And it would be very painless. If Ken is building balloon software that's individual for each person, each business, like that's what we do mostly. We build, like if we build software for Nathan or we build software for someone else or someone else, that software is totally unique to them. Okay, even if we start with starting point, we customize it, it's unique to them. So fixing Nathan's database and pushing the updates to 12 people, never gonna happen. So if we only have one customer with that version of software, if we can remote on and use that live version, we will do that. There are some potential downsides to using a live file if it's under high traffic, right? Certain things you can do can disrupt other users. So if you have 50 people beating on, say Nathan Schneider up in Canada buys Balloon Pro 1.2. He gets a special version of it. It's customized to him. So Nathan calls it Nathan's Balloon Service 1.2. So no one else has that copy. It's unique to him, right? And there's 50 people working on it at one time. Well, really, you need to think about doing your work or making your changes offline, off hours, not offline, off hours. You could use the deploy software. I guess you could do a one-off where you work on it locally, then press it and just updates it to the one machine. You can't do that. It's just most time with deploy, the idea is that you're going to carpet bomb 5, 20, 20, 50 customers. But you could do it with just one. That'd be another way of doing it. I think we're in this transition period right now with FileMaker. And you're like, well, how do I solve it today? Well, this is how you solve it today, right? Either you make the changes to the live file or plan on migrating it yourself after hours, or you work a graveyard shift while the rest of the company works daytime shift, whatever, right? Maybe Ken is working on the balloon stuff middle of the night, which is fine. But remember, middle of the night here is middle of the day in Australia or in India or someplace. So there's no such thing as really when everyone's off duty, right? So Nathan says he's now using Deploy and Mirrorsync, and that's the solution he uses, right? So that's the way of doing it. It allows you to build offline. When our team is doing stuff, if they're prototyping something, they'll work with an offline throwaway copy to make sure it works. Once it's fine, it's going, we will do the work on the live file. So you get the idea that you would deploy it, but you would deployment, you're going to pay for the software. This deploy software is not free. It's not cheap. Nathan prefers it this way. He's already working with folks, Jesse Barnum over there. But the cheapest way of doing it in the near term is just to work on the live file. But we're in this transition period where in the future, you're going to be able to make the changes. You should be able to rip and diff the changes. The diff is the difference. And then push up a patch file. Okay, right now, none of this stuff works that way. Claris is experimenting with it. We had the conversation with Nick Orr, right? Remember he said the XML for this new stuff is not good enough yet. They're updating it. And so he's the base elements guy. He would love to make, and so would Jesse, they'd love to make a product that you make these edits, it rips off just the changes, and it goes up to the server and patches the server. That would be really great. That's the future. That's the future. What we have right now is you make the changes to a complete database, it clones it, it moves the whole file up to the server, and then it moves all the data out of the old file to the new file. That's what deploy does. So it's basically a complete, you're swapping one FMP 12 file out for a new FMP 12 file for an older FMP12 file. It's not like we're just going to patch it. That's the future. That's in 2023 or 2024 or something like that. Okay, Jamie's asking the question. I'm going to pivot back. The SBA program is a Claris program. It's not me. All right, everyone, appreciate it. I appreciate the conversation. Good conversation. So we'll catch you tomorrow. We'll be picking up the conversation about performance tuning right here. And we have other things coming behind here. We'll turn those on as well. But yeah, performance, and it's for basics for beginners, because we're literally shooting these videos this week, and they'll be done. And then the progression of learning for new people. We'll talk more about that in the book. Awesome. All right, thanks.
Guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected. The quarterback, great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Try to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10. Rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, again he makes the grab.